Hey guys, welcome to my pilot episode of my vlog. My name's Amir. A little bit about me. I've been playing 1-2 no limit for probably 15 years now. On and off, very recreational player. Tournaments and cash whenever I have the time. But I decided that I think I'm a winning player, and I wanted to show kind of how I play 1-2 at these smaller stakes, and hopefully folks may get something out of it. What I'm hoping to get out of it is learning a little bit more about the game and now analyzing all my hands, seeing what I did right, what I did wrong, and potentially, improving my game enough to move up in stakes. So I hope you like my hand analysis, and hopefully I can put out some more content that will, at least inspire some conversation on the hands, and maybe I'll learn a little bit of something, and hopefully you guys will learn a little bit of something off of kind of how I play. So without further ado, let's get into some hands. Okay, so we wake up with Jack 8 in the hijack, and we get one caller in mid position. And what we decide to do is raise here. I like to balance my range out with not so premium holdings like Jack 8. Only in late position. Obviously, this is an instant fold in early or mid position, but somewhere in the hijacker cutoff or button, every once in a while I'll raise with a hand like Jack 8 just to balance my range. So we make it $10. Unfortunately, the cutoff calls. The button folds, and we go to the mid position player ends up folding as well. We go to a flop, and the flop is 4, 10, 8, 2 diamonds. I'm going to go ahead and c-bet this flop, having some showdown value. The cutoff ends up calling the $15, and we go to a turn. And it's the 7 of clubs. So now there's 2 flush draws and potential straight draw out there. So at this point, I'm going to shut down and just check fold to basically any bet. So I check, the cutoff checks, the river comes a 6 of diamonds, the flush came in, there's 4 to a straight. I'm pretty much done with this hand. So I check again, and the cutoff bets $20, so I end up folding Jack 8. Now, this is going to happen quite a bit. You're going to raise in late position and miss the flop or hit the flop partially, but then the board's going to run out unfavorable. So at this point, cautious play. I'm just going to check fold pretty much a lot of hands that aren't connecting with this type of board. So we have King Jack on the button. We have a couple callers from mid to late position. And on the button here with a wider range, as I mentioned before, I kind of like to raise to balance out my range. So I make it $12, and the big button calls, the mid position player folds, and so does the late position player. Flop comes King 5, 6 rainbow. The big blind checks. I bet 15, and then the big blind calls. The turn comes a 7 of hearts. The big blind checks again. The straight draw got there if you had something like 8-9 or 3-4. So I end up checking behind just in case. I know that might be a little weak, but he was on the big blind, and at this limit 1-2, people call with all kinds of crazy hands. So for a little bit of pot control, I check back. The river comes at 2 hearts. He leads out for 15 at this point. It's an interesting bet into a $74 pot. At this point, I don't think I'm going to raise, just in case he, peeled one off on the flop with something like 3-4, and then check the turn to try to induce a bet. So I take the safe route and just call 15. And the villain shows Queen Jack off. So he was basically betting with air there. Um, so we take this down. Nice little small pot. Okay, on this hand, we have 10 Jack offsuit on the button. We get a couple of callers from mid to late position. And so what I like to do again, I've discussed this in the past, is open up for a wider range on the button, especially in position. At 1-2 no limit, there's a lot of limp calling and a lot of limp folding. So whenever I see a lot of limpers in and I have position on those limpers, I like to put in a raise with a wide range of hands to get them either to fold or kind of isolate them calling off with bad hands. So I make it 12. The big blind calls, the middle position player calls, and then the cutoff folds. So we go 3 ways to the flop. The pot's $39 now, and it's ace-6-5 rainbow. So it's checked to me. An ace would definitely be in my range, although if they're paying attention and saw that maybe I've been opening a lot of pots on the button or in late position, they notice that I'd probably be opening with a wider range. So if they hit any piece of this flop, like a 5 or 6 or maybe pocket 4s, they may call. But I think the ace hits my range more than some of the other players. And since there's only 2 players, I think I can get a bet through and get them to fold if they don't have an ace. So I bet 17 into the pot, and I get 2 folds, so we end up taking it down. So we have pocket 8s in the hijack, and we get 1 late position caller. I included this hand just to show kind of how I would play pocket pairs and 1-2 no limit. In late position, I like to raise with pocket pairs, especially if there's a lot of limps ahead of me. In early position, I'll want to see it flop as cheap as possible. Maybe I'll call and then call a small raise from someone from later position. So in this spot, I decide I'm going to raise it to $12. Unfortunately, the button calls, so we don't have position on the hand for the rest of the hand. And then the middle position player that called folds. So we go to a flop for 2-3-6, 2 diamonds. I decide to c-bet here since I have an overpair to the board, basically see where I'm at, hoping to take it down right here. The button calls 15. So the turn is a 4 of clubs. Now, it's a scare card. There's 4 to a straight out there. He could always have just called with pocket 5s and hit his gin card on the turn. But it's a little too weak, I think, to check right now and let him try to steal the pot from me with maybe 2 overcards. So I'm going to bet again, see where I'm at. If he raises or if he calls again, I'll consider, shutting it down in the river and just checking it down and see what he does. So I make another bet at $35, and he immediately folds. So we take down a small pot. I wanted a little setup on this hand about the players that I'm playing with. At this point, I've been playing for a little while. The player that's 2 seats to my left and currently the big blind in this particular hand, I call him Joe Pesci because he sounds exactly like Joe Pesci. I mean, if you were to close your eyes and listen to him talk, I could swear I'm hearing Joe Pesci in Casino. The player in the cutoff has been very aggressive, raising with a lot of wide variety of hands. So I've nicknamed him Aggro. So in this particular hand, I have ace deuce on the button. And there is mid-position caller, and the aggressive player to my right makes it 12. Normally, I would fold ace deuce in pretty much all spots here, but since this player was been so aggressive, I figured I'd make a call against his particular range. So I make it 12, defend a little bit. The big blind calls, and the middle position player folds. So we go 3-way to a flop, and the flop is 3-5-7 rainbow. The cutoff, or the big blind checks, and then the cutoff bet's 25. So at this point, I would normally fold this hand, but since it's against this particular player, and I have a gut shot and one overcard, I figured I'd call and see what he does on the turn. I could still hit my ace, and it would probably be good against this particular player, and I could obviously hit the gut shot. So I call the 25, and the big blind Joe Pesci calls 25. The turn is quite a good card for us. It actually is the 4 diamonds, and it makes our straight. So the big blind, though, Mr. Joe Pesci, ends up betting out 25 when the 4 comes out. So the aggressive player ends up folding, and it's pretty much a scary turn here. He could have been calling with an open-ender, and I could be drawing to the low end of the, I could be dead to at the low end of the straight, so I end up just calling. The turn comes an ace, so now if he had a deuce, we're chopping, and if he has a 6, we're beat. So he ends up betting 15 into like a micro bet into this $179 pot. Now, I've seen this happen quite a bit where, you know, sometimes they're betting a blocker to prevent me from betting because they want to get the showdown, or they just trying to get very thin value out of kind of the nut straight. You know, you probably might have something like 6-9 or 6-8, sorry, something like that, and just drilled it on the turn. So I end up just calling and to see what he has, and he shows pocket sevens. So he flopped a set, and we turned straight on him. Now, at this point, Mr. Joe Pesci was not too happy. He goes on kind of a little rant with the dealer, and let's see what that sounds like here.
Call.
Straight.
3-7.
It was straight.
Straight.
How the fuck you get it straight?
Ace 2, 3, 4, 5.
You gotta be fucking.
You need the 2.
You gotta be. God damn, Mike. Every fucking time.
Thank you. Big one.
Jesus Christ. 3-7 right off the fucking back of them little fucking card. Fucking fail. Get the fuck out of here.
15.
Fucking straight. Are you fucking kidding me?
So although it was just someone who sounded like Joe Pesci, he ended up walking up off the table and going for his little cooler rant or cooler walkabout that most of us do. Really nice guy. Love how he sounded like Joe Pesci, but I kind of beat him out of this pot with a lucky turn. So that's it for the first vlog. Hopefully you guys got a little bit something out of it. I'm hoping that by making these videos, I'll get better at 1-2 and then potentially move up in stakes at some point. I'm only a rec player, so I'm hoping that, you know, you might get a little bit of knowledge from my bad play and that maybe I might get a little better. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll continue to put out some decent content, hopefully. And it can only get better because this one was pretty bad. So hopefully my future videos won't be as terrible.